Hello, good afternoon. I hope you can hear us, and I hope you are also able to follow this conversation. So, we are to talk about postpartum depression. This is the depression that, or this is the condition that generally affects women, especially soon after giving birth. Women can undergo a certain range of mental struggles. So for that reason, I'm hoping that we have men on this conversation. So if you know any man, please tag them or invite them, and so that they can hear for themselves. But also, of course, it's important that we get as many women as possible to listen in. But for men, it's important because most of us men don't understand this thing. So it's important that men also, get to hear this issue. Um, right. So tell us where you're watching us from. We are interested in knowing where you're catching us from as well, because we also want to know, where you're watching us from as well. So do tell us where you're catching us from. Um, right. So let's see if we can get started in the next few minutes. So let's give it a minute for others to join. I'll be quick about this one. I'll take maybe about 10 minutes of your time. Yeah, about 10 minutes of your time, then we'll be done. The whole idea of this conversation is that we want you to appreciate what postpartum depression is, and we want you to be able to recognize it and also seek help in time. But also, we need you to understand the causes. We need you to appreciate the risk factors and how to deal with it should you recognize postpartum depression either in yourself or in your loved one or someone who lives with you. What should you do? Should you find that somebody has postpartum depression that lives with you? So that's that. Okay. All right. I think we can get started. Yeah, I think we can get started. We are good to go. All right, let's get started. I think we've waited long enough. We've waited for 4 minutes. That's a long time to wait. So let's get started. So now, what is postpartum depression? Now, postpartum depression is actually a spectrum of mental illnesses or mental diseases or mental challenges that affect women soon after birth. And, and there are some risk factors that we'll talk about. Now, in its mild form, postpartum depression is called postpartum blues. The symptoms are not as severe, but there's sadness just after birth because of the changes that happen to your body after birth and a lot of other changes that can happen that I'm going to explain. And then from postpartum blues, you have postpartum depression. And then in its severe form, when psychosis is involved. Now remember, we've defined psychosis in this conversation on this platform before, where we're saying psychosis is basically characterized by two features: delusions and hallucinations. So to postpartum depression, it can also gravitate in its severe form, it can become a postpartum psychosis. But for this conversation, we're going to focus so much on postpartum depression. Now, I need us to appreciate something, that postpartum depression can also affect new fathers. Okay, so sometimes when we talk about postpartum depression, we focus mainly on women, but it can also affect men. It's called paternal postpartum depression. Now, very quickly, before I dwell so much on why we are discussing this, let me just touch very fast on paternal postpartum depression. Paternal postpartum depression, you see it commonly in young fathers or fathers who are having babies for the very first time, usually they get depressed and they do suffer actual depression, purely because number one, that maybe they are feeling overwhelmed, that they have a new child in their home and they don't know what to do. Nobody sat them down and taught them what to expect should a baby arrive. If you notice in our societies, particularly here, women are, there's a lot of time and energy that goes into preparing a woman for the home. But the same energy is not spent in preparing the man or the boy child for the home. Especially when it comes to preparing them for marriage. I think a lot of effort and energy goes into teaching the girl child or the woman on what to expect and how to manage a home and how to manage herself. But for men, the same doesn't happen that often. As a result, here's a new father who's just had a child, and the mother has brought the baby home, and is a new father, and he doesn't know what to do. And it is because of that, it is in that moment that as a father or as a new parent or as a new father, he becomes confused. He gets anxiety to the point of depression. One of the reasons he may get depressed is financial. If he has a child and his finances are not in order to look after this child, he will be depressed. Or he was not expecting to have a child, or he impregnated this woman and or they've brought the child home and you're not expecting that you'll be a father so soon. And also, yes, you find that fine, you could have been expecting the child, or you could have been excited that you're married, but then reality hits you. The woman is here, the baby is here, and the responsibilities are beyond what you had expected as a man, and that can draw you into what we call paternal postpartum depression. That is why young fathers, it's very important. Young fathers, it's very important that when you have a child as a young father, we hope that you have people around you that can mentor you and help you. You have people around you that you can consult. Family support is very important to the young fathers, especially if you're a father for the first time. It can be very daunting. The other issue is that, you see, there's a reason sometimes in our culture why when a woman has a baby for the first time, they are sent to their mother to go and live with their mother. There's value in that Zambian culture. And that part of our culture, I think that it needs to be encouraged. It needs to be continued because it actually helps manage these scenarios, especially issues to do with paternal postpartum depression or even maternal postpartum depression. It helps. That is why I'm a strong advocate for that particular culture where when a woman has the baby for the first time, she goes and lives with her parents for social support. It's very important. Now, let's dwell on why we are here. We are here to discuss postpartum depression in the woman. Now, the question is, how does postpartum depression in a woman arise? What causes it? What are the causes? One of the causes is that, you see, when a woman is pregnant, she has a lot of hormones that are running around in her body, mainly estrogen, progesterone, and also you have other hormones like, the thyroxine hormone or thyroid hormones. They are also, at play. Now, usually what tends to happen is that the moment the woman delivers and the baby has come out and the baby is presented to her, those hormones that were very high tend to drop very suddenly. Now, it is that sudden drop in hormones that begins to play tricks on her. That's one of the theories that has been advanced as a cause for postpartum depression. Of course, there are other theories that have been advanced with regards to what actually causes postpartum depression. Now, how would you know as a woman, how would you know that I could be having postpartum depression? How would you know? What things would make you suspect that, okay, it looks like I could have postpartum depression? Now, the risk factor, or rather the symptoms of postpartum depression are a sense of sadness. Now, this usually comes from the changes that happen in your body as a woman. Sometimes you feel a sense of loss of control, fatigue, you're tired, and that's part of the source of it. The emotional side of it in terms of the cause is that you feel overwhelmed as a new mother or just as a mother, because postpartum depression also happen in people having babies, not just first time, but even later on. So you feel overwhelmed as a mother. And then the other thing is that your body has changed. You are no longer what you used to be. And because of that, your confidence drops. Your perception of yourself becomes very poor. And because of that, it starts playing on your mind and you end up depressed. So how would you know? Even you as a husband, how would you tell that your wife or your partner whom has just had your baby could have postpartum depression? Firstly, their mood would be depressed. They would have a depressed mood. Okay? And they would have mood swings where sometimes they're extremely sad. Okay? Extremely sad, like really, really sad. So they would have mood swings. And then they cry a lot. If you have a new mother who is crying over and over again, even for no reason at all, she's crying. And then don't dismiss it that she's just being a woman. You know how women are. Women like crying for no reason. Women like crying just for crying. No. She could be undergoing postpartum depression. That's why I was saying, I'm hoping that men are also on this conversation and men are also listening in, because it's important that men also understand this issue. The reason they cry a lot sometimes when they're just had a baby is because they're depressed. And postpartum depression also, you'd find that the woman is having difficulties bonding with the baby. If you start noticing that, or you as a woman, or you as a husband, you're noticing that, you see that, okay, I think there are issues here. Okay. And then she's withdrawing from family and friends. She doesn't want to interact with people. She doesn't want to see people. She doesn't want to even call people. She has withdrawn herself. You know that, okay, there's an issue here. The other issue is loss of appetite. You see, when a woman has just had a baby, they eat a lot. They are always very hungry. They want to eat a lot. The reason is that it's a physiological thing. She needs to eat a lot because she's also producing a lot of milk for the baby. So her appetite goes up. But if a woman has just had a baby and her appetite is poor, she's not eating, she's neglecting herself, it's possible that she has, postpartum depression. And then this is a big one, insomnia. You've just had a baby and you just can't sleep. In addition to the fact that you are depressed, you are sad, deeply sad, you cry a lot, and you can't sleep. That will tell you that, okay, here we are dealing with a case of depression. And then they are easily irritable, like they get angry so easily. If you have a new mother who easily gets angry, like her nerves are just easily friable, a small thing as Azuka, a small thing she's screaming at you, it's probably that she has postpartum depression. All right. And then loss of interest in things that she was previously interested in, it could be a sign that she has postpartum depression. And she's always tired and lack of energy, lack of interest in things that she was previously interested in, can lead to, it could be a sign that she's depressed. Especially when she starts telling you things like she doesn't feel like she's a good mother. Be careful. You're the husband in the home, you're a new father in the home, and your new mother or your wife keeps complaining that I feel like I'm a bad mother. I don't think I can make a good mother. Chances are that she's experiencing postpartum depression. And then she's always restless. And she has feelings of worthlessness, hopelessness. She has no hope. And she has anxiety and panic attacks. Chances are that she has postpartum depression. The other symptom is when she has thoughts of harming herself, suicidal thoughts or suicide attempt, then you know that, okay, here you're dealing with serious problems of postpartum depression. The other worst thing that can happen to a mother who has postpartum depression is that they can actually kill their own baby or harm the baby. That's why postpartum depression is an important subject, because one of the complications is that the mother can kill herself or she can actually kill the baby. That has happened. Infanticide, we call it infanticide, where you find you wake up in the morning, the baby is dead. This was a very healthy baby, nothing wrong. The baby is dead because the mother has killed it. And that happens a lot to mothers who have postpartum depression, especially if they have fallen into what we call postpartum psychosis. They kill their own babies. That's why this is something that needs to be dealt with. And the worst part is that you see, she could also kill herself. She could kill herself. That's why it needs to be dealt with. So when you see these features, here's a mother who's just had a baby. She's breastfeeding. And you've noticed all these features that I've talked about. And all these features don't need to be there at the same time. If you notice one or two of them, seek help. Do not wait for the condition to degenerate to a level where she's now almost, she's now even attempting to kill herself, or she is now even attempting to kill the baby. Do not wait for the situation to get to those levels. Seek help quickly. Okay? Seek help quickly. Do not wait for that to happen. That's the issue. So now, what sort of mother, in what sort of woman would you expect postpartum depression to happen? And here we are talking about risk factors. In what sort of mother would you think that, okay, this one is likely to have postpartum depression? It is in mothers who previously had postpartum depression. So if you're a mother and you previously had postpartum depression, chances are in your next pregnancy, you may have postpartum depression again. So if you're a husband, you are nursing a wife who previously had postpartum depression, expect it in the next pregnancy and prepare for it. Okay? And if your wife or a mother, you are a known bipolar disorder patient. Yes, bipolar can be managed. But if you know that your partner has bipolar, remember we talked about bipolar in the last video. If you missed it, subscribe to our YouTube channel and you search for the video, you'll find it. We'll give you a good understanding of what bipolar looks like. If your partner has bipolar, chances are that she will also have postpartum, depression. So the other thing you should look out for, where you can, where you're able to predict, this is where, for example, your partner or the woman had been treated for depression prior. Not related to postpartum, but just depression in general. She had undergone clinical depression and she was being treated for it. If she falls pregnant, she's also likely to have postpartum depression. If she has family members, if your partner or your wife has a history in her family of people who have had depression or any form of mental illness, she might also have, postpartum depression. Or she has experienced a very stressful event. Either she lost a loved one, job loss, a business that went bad. She may also experience postpartum depression if she was pregnant. And if a baby is born with problems, say she has given birth to a baby, but this baby has been born with complications. Okay, the baby has either some malformations of some kind, and the baby has some disease conditions of some kind. The mother may develop postpartum depression because of that. So if you see that your baby has been born with complications, also pay attention to the woman because she may fall into postpartum depression if it's not well handled. The other issue is that women who have multiple babies, if either she has twins or triplets or other multiple babies, quadruplets, such women easily fall into postpartum depression. You know why? Because they are overwhelmed with the number of babies. The other one is if a woman is having problems producing breast milk and she's struggling to breastfeed the baby, that frustration, okay, can easily lead to depression. Spousal problems, where you and your partner are having problems in your relationship while she's pregnant or during the time she's pregnant or just after the baby. There are some serious issues within the relationship between you and your partner. The mother of your child will develop postpartum depression. All right. Now, women who have a very weak support system. She has a baby quite all right. She is married or not married, but she has a weak support system where she doesn't have enough social support in her life to help her deal with the baby. She will develop postpartum depression. She will. Those are some of these factors. Financial problems. Yes, you are living with this man or you are married, but you have a baby now, but you have serious financial concerns and you are unable to support the baby. They will develop postpartum depression. And lastly, where the pregnancy is unwanted, either by either part, either the man who impregnated you refused that that's not my pregnancy, or you yourself as a woman, you got pregnant, but you were not prepared for it, or the man has refused to take responsibility. Now you also don't want the pregnancy. Should you carry that pregnancy forward, you will end up with postpartum depression. So those are the risk factors you need to look out for, such that if you are dealing with a woman who's pregnant and any of these factors are present, bear in mind, just bear in mind and look out for features of postpartum depression. For the reasons I mentioned earlier, that postpartum depression is a very serious illness. However, the beauty is that should you have postpartum depression, I need you to understand that it's a treatable illness, it can be controlled, and it can be prevented. Prevention is, for example, if you have issues that I have mentioned that can be modified, for example, poor social support. If you're able to provide social support and you've noticed early in the pregnancy that there's poor social support here, and you're able to provide it somehow, you'll be able to prevent postpartum depression. Now, here's the issue. Once you've noticed that a woman has just had a baby and you've seen any of the features I've talked about, please, please, please seek medical help as quickly as possible. You don't want to wait. You also don't want it to degenerate into something that will create serious complications. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thought I'd bring this to your attention. And this has been Dr. Mjajati discussing postpartum depression. And do us a favor, because postpartum depression is very common and a lot of people are unable to recognize it. And that's because they're not able to recognize it in time, they tend to seek medical attention late. Therefore, if you have a mother right now in your home, a new mother in your home, pay attention to some of these features that we talked about. And if there are any, seek medical attention quickly. Because if you delay, these are mothers who either kill themselves or they kill the baby. Okay? These incidences have happened once too many times. So this has been Dr. Mjajati discussing postpartum depression. Now do us a favor, share this video, because we need this information out there as much as possible. Do take care, and we'll probably see you tomorrow morning after, not tomorrow morning, we'll probably see you tomorrow after voting with another topic. As we wait for the results, we'll come back to you with another topic to keep us, talking as we wait for the election results. Right, that's it. It's almost 16. Let's start getting ready to go home. And I hope you had a nice day. Wake up early tomorrow and go and vote. Do take care. And goodbye. Bye.